This is Billy and Harriet, a thriller and murder mystery target audience and genre. And would you like to just tell us who you are, how old you are, and...
I'm Kerry Rivet and I'm 36.
Okay. So, is a thriller or murder mystery genre your favourite type of genre to watch?
Not my favourite genre, but I think you've got to be willing to engage and watch all different sorts of things, even if it's not your kind of favourite choice of, but not favourite anyway.
And if you were to watch one, what would your... what do you like about thrillers and murder mysteries?
I think the thing I like the most is thinking I know the answer, expecting a certain end result, and then being genuinely surprised as to who might have been involved in whatever aspect of the thriller or mystery it is at a particular point. I don't like to get the answer right, because I think that's when you've lost your audience.
Okay. So, is that how you'd improve recent thrillers?
I think it's all too often when you're watching, whether it's a kind of thriller and what is and isn't going to happen next, or whether it's a murder mystery and it's a case of who has or hasn't done it. I think they don't... If you've got even 3 or 4 options and you think you know what the outcome's going to be, if it is one of those 3 or 4, I feel really bitterly disappointed, and that's when I perhaps switch off and not have anything to sort of not recommend it, not come back and see it, that kind of stuff. So I think it's vital to do that. So yes, I think some of the more recent films have been a bit predictable.
Okay. So do you like it when these genres include violent or gory scenes?
I am not a fan of blood and guts and gore. I'm not. It makes me feel really quite physically sick. And if I'm concentrating on feeling physically sick and not being sick, then I'm not concentrating on what I should be doing, which is the film. Violence I can stomach to a certain extent. Fantasy violence I find easier to watch than what might be perceived as real life violence. I find real life violence very, very disturbing. I think if you're starting to talk about the effects and impacts that's going to have on audience, it does worry me what impact seeing real life violence in either a thriller or a murder mystery, what it might have on some of the people that are watching it, and that concerns me on a personal level. I think you need some element of violence and probably blood and guts and gore in both.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise you've not got anything that maybe captures the audience or gives any kind of element of shock factor. But I think it can be excessive, and that's when I wouldn't necessarily enjoy whatever it was I was watching.
Okay. Who are your favourite types of characters in these genres?
I'd go back to that kind of, that surprise or suspense element, in that somebody who maybe turns out to be not what I expected in the first place, and that could happen on very many different levels. I think it's something that's going to be a bit different. It's going to be a bit... Well, it has obviously got to be creative, but something that offers something a little bit different to things I've seen previously.
Okay. So something you wouldn't expect.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And do you have any preferred actors in thrillers or murder mysteries?
I have preferred actors, but not in thrillers or mysteries necessarily. And I suppose that's testament to the fact that, like I said to you, this is not my favourite genre. Yeah. Not that I'm not interested, but it's not a favourite genre, and so it's more about the quality of the production I see, I would argue, than it is about having a particular person in that role.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Okay, this is Harriet and Billy, and we're doing thriller and murder mystery genres. Hello.
Hello.
Can you just tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, your age, and...
Yeah, sure. My name is Simon Porter. I'm the deputy head of the school, and I've been here since 1999, when I first came as head of English. I am 47, I think, although when you get past 40 you kind of forget how many years it is. I think I'm 47 in 23 days. So don't forget my birthday present and my card.
Okay.
And I'm a dad to a very manic 7-year-old who's going on 17.
So we're going to ask you a few questions about thriller and murder
Sure, no
mysteries. So is a thriller or murder mystery genre your favourite type of film?
As an adult, yes. So if it was me choosing to watch a film on TV or to go to the cinema, pretty much, maybe with the exception of a couple of dramas, I would always choose thriller, murder mystery kind of film. That said, I spend most of my cinema hours watching films for 7-year-olds. So whether it's the Lego Movie or Frozen or Coraline. So in terms of proportion of time, I spend most of my time watching 7-year-old films, and I've fallen in love with that world, I have to admit. But if it was me on adult time, then definitely always that particular genre you mentioned.
Okay. What do you like about these two genres?
I think for me they represent escapism and a bit of trying to adopt maybe a fantasy life. So if I get to watch a film and I think I could be that person, so if I'm watching a film for a 7-year-old, I'd want to be Mr. Incredible on The Incredibles. But if I'm watching a thriller or a murder-based film, I quite fancy myself as a bit of a detective. I'd like to be that leading man, that hero, but equally also some of the villains in the films. So if I choose an example, there's a film called Leon by a French director called Luc Besson. My favourite character in Leon is the evil one. It's played by Gary Oldman. He's a cop, but he murders people. And I just think that the way he portrays that character is just amazing. And actually, when you watch that film, I want to be him. So for me, as a genre, it represents escapism more than anything else.
Okay. What would you improve if you had the decision about recent
ones? Right. I think that one of the things I hate most is when a filmmaker chooses a particular device, like a framing device, or they use flashback or flash forward. I can't stand that. It does my head in. So I want to watch a film and I like a linear narrative that starts here and ends there, and I'm taken on the journey with the film.
Right.
If I think that they're giving me clues to things that I don't need, I'm not stupid, I can be able to work it out, I feel annoyed. So a good example of that would be, there's a Bryan Singer film called The Usual Suspects. It's a crime thriller, and they use flashback and flash forward in that. Now, I know why he's done it, and he uses it quite effectively, but it just annoys the hell out of me. I just want to watch a film, and I want it to start and then end, and I want to be taken on that journey. I don't need gimmicks. That really annoys me. So, if I was to improve any film, I would ban flashback and flash forward completely.
Okay. And do you like it when thrillers or murder mysteries include violent and gory scenes?
Right. I'm not averse to violence or gore. I don't have a particular problem with it if it's in the right context. I do think that I've probably changed with age. I don't mean getting old, I mean becoming a dad. I think that's changed me. So if there's anything to do with children, violence against children, before being a father, it would just be part of the film and I'd watch it and there'd be no problem. Now being a dad, anything against children just makes me feel really, really uneasy. So I can't really, you can only really understand that if you're a parent. It's very difficult. You might nod to me and say, okay, I get that, I get why you feel that, but actually it's a feeling in here, because it's just about being a parent. I think being a teacher as well, anything to do with kids makes me feel quite protective, and anything like that is against children, I just feel uneasy about it, and I wouldn't choose a film that has that in. In fact, I've avoided films in the last few years because I know that some of the content would upset me, whereas 20 years ago it wouldn't have done at all. Now, in terms of violence, I like violence to be subtle. I don't need a sledgehammer to the head with violence. So I'll give you, again, good examples of that. I'll go back to Leon by Luc Besson, French director. So you've got Jean Reno, who plays an assassin. No, he's the good guy. Gary Oldman, who plays the cop. He's the bad guy. So they're kind of a role reversal in there. At the end of that film, Gary Oldman kills Jean Reno's character. He kills Leon. And the way that Besson did that was, instead of having him die in a hail of bullets and blood spattering everywhere, Gary Oldman comes up to the back of him in shadow. He shoots him, but we don't hear the shot. And then everything goes dark. And I like the subtlety of that. I think there's something about that that says that's kind of classy in terms of filmmaking. He doesn't need to do the over-exaggerated violence. Having said that, again, I like the way Tarantino styles violence. I think the violence in films like Pulp Fiction or Kill Bill could be described, or Reservoir Dogs, could be described as extreme, but there's something about his humour with it. He does it with a sense of humour, and I think that saves him. So if it's done with humour or it's done with subtlety, then it works for me. It's a good thing.
Yeah. And who are your favourite types of characters in these genres?
Right. I think anybody that I want to be. So anybody that allows me to escape from being a deputy head in a school, which is a good job, and I like the job, but I don't, if I had the choice of being me doing the job I'm doing or being Gary Oldman in Leon, I'd be Gary Oldman every time. Or if I'm trying to think of another example to use. There is a character called Michael Clayton in the film Michael Clayton, and he is played by George Clooney. Now, I'm not saying I want to be George Clooney, but and George Clooney is a very underrated actor. I mean, he is just Oscar-winning in that particular film. Very subtle, very menacing when he needs to be, very smart. Not the George Clooney that you would see in the press, but a very, very brilliant performance. Probably Oscar-winning performance, really should have been. In that film, Michael Clayton, he plays a lawyer who is also a fixer of situations. And he is just so ultra cool that you can't help but to want to be him. So if you're a middle-aged man like me, you want to be Michael Clayton. You want to be that character. But equally, I would also want to be... there's a Jim Jarmusch film called Ghost Dog, which features Forrest Whitaker, and he plays a overweight black samurai, modern samurai warrior in America. Now, he is so far removed from my normal life, but again, he's very, very cool, and he is a paid assassin. He's a paid killer. But he has a moral heart, and he lives by a code of honour, which he's taken from samurai warriors. So again, I watch that film and I think, I want to be him. I don't mind being bad guys, so I'm trying to think of a good example of that. There's a Michael Mann film called Collateral with Tom Cruise. Again, I'm not a big Tom Cruise fan, but he's very, very good in that film. And it's the style and the coolness of him which is appealing to somebody who does a job like I do.
And what actors do you like to see most in thrillers and murder mysteries?
Some of the people I mentioned before. Gary Oldman is a god. He's just awesome. So I think that Gary Oldman in even something like a historical thriller like JFK, the story of the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Gary Oldman plays Lee Harvey Oswald, the person who allegedly killed Kennedy. But then if you see Gary Oldman also in Leon, you think that is an actor who is really able to stretch all the kind of aspects of different character roles. So he can play anything. I really like Javier Bardem, not just because he's married to Penelope Cruz. That's a jealousy thing, obviously. But he, in the Coen brothers film No Country for Old Men, again, he plays a silent, existential killer I'm not coming across very well here because I'm saying that every film I want to be is a killer, but I've got no psychopathic tendencies. But he, in that Coen Brothers film, is, again, just a fantastic actor. I mean, just unbelievable. It's very subtle, very restrained. He kills a lot of people in that film, but he does it in a very subtle way. And he does it with class. Okay, he's got something about him that's, I mean, and again, almost with a sense of humour. So with any Coen Brothers film, you're going to get humour. Robert De Niro is an obvious one. I remember seeing Taxi Driver for the first time. He plays a Vietnam veteran who has lost it sort of psychologically, and again he goes and kills people. And I think De Niro in that role when he was very young, with his mohawk. And then if you take De Niro in the Michael Mann film Heat, where he plays a bank robber, the performances are very, very intense, but they're very different. So in terms of actors, I think that he would be somebody who would be somebody I would definitely go and see. If there was a thriller with De Niro in, I would go and see that. But I think there's loads of underrated actors. I mentioned Clooney is highly underrated. I hated DiCaprio in Romeo and Juliet, and I couldn't stand the fact that everybody talked about him, or in Titanic, and all the stupid floppy hair and all that nonsense. But DiCaprio grown up is a very, very good actor. So Wolf of Wall Street, but I'm thinking of the Scorsese film The Departed, where he plays a kind of undercover cop. Quite a convoluted story. But he is somebody who I think, again, as a young actor, he was pin-up stuff for teenage girls, but actually he's a very, very subtle actor. And the other person who I really, really like is an Irish actor called Gabriel Byrne. Gabriel Byrne was in the Bryan Singer film Usual Suspects. He's been in a lot of films, but he is very, very clever, and he plays roles in such a way that you believe in him. So when you watch a film with him in, he sucks you in, and that's what I want from a film. I want a director that's going to be do things with class and subtlety, and that goes back to even people like Hitchcock. So North by Northwest by Hitchcock, very, very classy thriller, and you can see that through the work of Scorsese or De Palma or Tarantino or Luc Besson. Those directors have got a certain class about them. So if it's a thriller by them, I'll go and see it. If it's got certain actors in who are classy, who've got a subtlety about them, I'll go and see them always.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.